YouTube, I'm Vanessa, and today I'm here to do my August wrap-up. So in the month of August, I participated in the Newts Readathon, and I did complete all 7 challenges. I read 7 books in August, and I am now a Hogwarts professor. So I think I'm gonna go in the order that I read them in. So the first book that I read in August was An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I used this book to get my A in History of Magic, which was to read a fantasy book. This is a young adult fairy book. It is about a girl who is a painter, and she paints portraits for the fair folk, and one day she gets commissioned to paint a portrait for the Prince of the Autumn Court. And during the process of painting his portrait, she finds herself falling in love with him, and she ends up painting emotion into his eyes. A big no-no in the fairy world. You're not supposed to ever feel sad when you're a fairy. So basically what she did was treason, and the prince takes her to the fairy world to stand trial or whatever, and things just kind of ensue from there. There were things that I loved about it and things that I didn't like as much. The whole plotline with like her painting and the trial thing, it all seemed a little bit like contrived, and like it didn't really matter, and it was just kind of being used as an excuse to get her into the fairy world to let other drama ensue, which is fine. But I also kind of feel like the world building could have been a little bit stronger. There was just a lot that was kind of like half-assedly dropped in and never really explained or expanded upon. But I guess, I mean, it's a standalone fantasy novel. I feel like it's kind of hard fleshing out like the plot line and the characters and the romance and everything else. So I understand. But even with those things, this book was still just so fun to read. Like, my enjoyment level while reading this was so high. I had such a good time, and I really loved it. The next book that I read after that was Sadie by Courtney Summers, which I listened to on audio on my way home from San Diego. So I used that for my E in herbology, or sorry, my A in herbology, which was to listen to an audiobook. Sadie was a really good book. I enjoyed listening to this the whole way home. It had me sucked in the whole way. Generally, I don't like audiobooks that are novels. I usually only like listening to like memoirs or nonfiction on audio, but this book, half of it is told in like podcast format, so it was almost like listening to a podcast. It is a book that deals with some heavier topics, so I would definitely say if you're going into this, probably check out the trigger warnings and stuff. The ones I can think of off the top of my head are like pedophilia, violence, abuse, drug use. The premise of it is just like girls that go missing for various reasons. The main character is a girl whose younger sister goes missing and is later found murdered, and so now the main character, struggling with that, runs away. So now she's also like a missing girl, and it's a lot, but it's really good. I really enjoyed listening to it, and like I said, the whole podcast format of it I thought was really interesting and really cool to listen to. After that, I read another book that also deals with a heavy topic. I read The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This is a young adult contemporary. It is about a girl who is raped during her first year of high school, and the book follows her over the next 4 years of her high school life, and just like what her life is like and what she is like after that event, even years later. And it kind of just explores the concept that like the impact of that isn't something that only lasts for a certain amount of time and then goes away. It's something that changes the course of your life. So again, kind of a heavy book. Definitely go into it knowing that that is the topic. I really enjoyed it though. I thought that it was a really touching book. I stayed up all night to read it because I didn't want to leave off in the middle, leaving things unfinished. I will say that if you are sensitive to this kind of topic, towards the end of the book, the main character does describe her assault in great detail. She goes like scene by scene of how it happened, and I didn't know if that detail was necessarily needed. Like, I could definitely see how that much detail might bother some people, so be aware of that if you're going to read it. But other than that, I really liked this book. I thought it was really good. After that, I lightened things up a little bit and I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I have been so excited for. This book is about a girl who grows up in a magical library, and then there are sorcerers and stuff. The books in the library are magical grimoires that can like talk and do stuff, and it's just, oh my gosh, this book, I don't think I have felt this way about a book in a really long time. It made me feel like plugged in and connected to the story and the characters in a way that a lot of books just haven't done for me. It gave me some Infernal Devices vibes with just like how beautiful and gloomy and atmospheric this like 1800s Victorian setting is, as well as the characters. I think that that's a huge strength in this book. The characters have such distinct and interesting personalities that I just felt like I knew them. The love interest, oh my god, I would marry him. And there's another character in here named Silas who is just the funniest and most lovable and just amazing side character that I've read about in a really long time. And the humor in this book and kind of like the general like tone and style of it reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, and I think that that is saying a lot. I highly recommend this book. It is amazing, and yeah, I really loved it, and I cannot wait for Margaret Rogerson's next books. She posted something on Twitter the other day that is implying that her next book might be about ghosts, and look, we got a fairy book, we got a magical library sorcerer book, and now we're gonna have a ghost book. I'm really ready for the reign of Margaret Rogerson over YA fantasy. So after that, I read a couple graphic novels. The first one that I read was Zodiac Star Force Volume 2. I used that for my E in Defense Against the Dark Arts, which was the first book that you remembered when you were making your TBR, and Zodiac Star Force has been on my mind a lot lately because I wanted to continue it, so it was really good. Again, I love the art style and just the general like bubblegummy Sailor Moon girls saving the world vibe in this graphic novel. I think it's amazing. The other graphic novel I read was Descender, and that was for my A in Astronomy, which was a book with a moon on the cover. This graphic novel was really good. It's set in like an outer space sci-fi setting where I guess like big evil robots just appeared on all these planets and started killing people. So because of that, humans declared like all robotics to be the enemy, and they started like basically genociding all of the robots that they had created, even like innocent household robots that had nothing to do with these evil robots that appeared. And the story follows this little boy robot named like Tim21 or something like that, and he's basically just meant to be a companion robot that you would get for like your kids if they don't have siblings or something. It was really interesting. It was like sad and cute and interesting and everything at the same time. This little boy robot also has like a little doggy robot, and there's also like this big mining robot that is like protecting them, and he's like big and tough, and it's so cute. I loved it so much. Finally, the last book that I read in August and for the Newts readathon was Princesses Behaving Badly. This was for my challenge to get an O in herbology, which was to read a book with a flower on the cover, and this edition does not have a flower on the cover, but the hardback edition does, so I'm counting it because I had no control over which edition Amazon was gonna send me, okay? My boyfriend actually ordered this for me because he is just an angel and I love him so much, and it's basically just a collection of little mini biographies of different princesses throughout history, and its goal is to kind of like humanize the concept of princessness. It tells all of these stories of princesses that did things that were amazing or did things that were horrifying, or you know, all sorts of stories of different princesses from many different cultures. It's not just like white European princesses in here if anyone is interested. I thought it was really amazing. I loved this book. I feel like I learned so much cool historical information. Like, it's the kind of information that is going to be so fun at like parties or something, to be like, well, have you ever heard of this princess that like murdered her entire family or something? You know what I mean? It's just cool. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun read. So I would highly recommend this book. So that is everything that I read for the Newts readathon in August. It was a lot. I feel like this video is already very long, so I'm just gonna wrap it up here. I would love to know what you read in August, or if you finished the Newts readathon, and I hope that I get to talk to you soon. Bye!